Hi guys, how you doing? I know this is well, it's a little bit scary, and you know, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot. I think a lot people are kind of nervous because you hear about these changes that are happening, and I just don't want you to think, okay, there's a change that means we're out of the woods. We're certainly not out of the woods. So here's what we know. We know we got a Category 5 hurricane. That's what we know. We know that this thing is kind of coming toward the state of Florida. There's so much stuff that's out there, and you guys know it. You hear the same stuff I do, but I get, oh, it's not going to hit us. It's going to curve. And you guys have seen this. The models, they'll shift a little bit right. They'll shift a little bit left. And we don't really get a lot of confidence about where a hurricane is going until we're maybe a couple of days out. So I don't want you to think that we're behind closed doors and thinking, let's save all of this information. We're not going to reveal it. We're not going to tell anybody what's going on. Hey, Jeanette, how you doing? Really, you can't hear me? Is that better? Wait, tell me if the audio is better now. I'm all the way up. How's the audio now? Is it any better? Let's assume it is. Yes? Is that good? Okay, so let me show you a couple of things that we're looking at. All right, so it's a computer screen, and you guys can see it's really hot. That's the last run. That's it. That's the 5 o'clock, and you're seeing it, and you've seen the advisory, and I've already posted it. Okay. Thanks, Tracy. So what happened? Well, what happened was we have all of these different computer models that they use, and they look at, you hear it, the European model. There's a U.S. model. I'm sorry, I was reading something. And as all of that now, thanks, Carrie. I'm glad. I hope I fixed it. Anyway, but as the models come in, they kind of bring them together. And there's a group of guys that, you know, they're the hurricane specialists at the Hurricane Center, and they look and they assess and they try to figure it out, and they say, you know what, this model's good under these conditions, this model's better under these, and they sit down together. And so this is where you see, there's the Hurricane Center's forecast, but you see also those, what we call the spaghetti maps. Let me pull that up real quick. So something that might look like either of those two maps. And so there's a bunch that may trend this way, there's a bunch that may trend that way, but you can't really pay attention to them. You kind of have to go with what the Hurricane Center says. Hey, Mary, how you doing? Have you heard from Ashley yet? That's what I want to know. Anyway, as it comes in, we get better information, and we didn't have a lot over the ocean because we don't have a lot of data over the ocean. So all those planes flying back and forth on Tuesday night and into Wednesday started to all of a sudden give us a lot of, hey, Barb, I've already talked to Kristen. I know she's in good hands and she's in good shape. But all those pieces of data came in, better information. So I'm confident this is going to happen. The problem is the white cone, where it's all colored in, all of that, have confidence in. All of this, don't. Because this is what was happening. You guys know, some of you did it. You saw the cone, and it was over here. And then the other area was here, and it shifted, and you said, oh, it's not coming. And then you saw the shift today, and so now you're getting a little nervous. So what could happen? Couple of things. All right, Mary, I'm still keeping my fingers crossed and hoping for you, by the way. Let's play it out. Let's suppose that Irma does this. It comes in on this side, and you guys know some of this stuff, so it's not anything new to most of you Floridians, but let me just remind you, right side is the stronger side. The more it stays to the east, the better it's for all of the state, and of course the better it is for us up here in Tallahassee. But the right side is the slightly stronger side because you kind of add the forward speed to whatever the winds are. As it's coming up, if it were to take this path, and, you know, I'm going to add the track. I don't really like doing it, but I know you guys kind of like a line. So let me add that. There's your line. If it were to follow that, remember, it's really 300 and maybe 360, 70 miles across. Let's say it's almost 400, like one of these boxes. The hurricane, all of it, tropical storm force winds, hurricane force winds, it fills a box. So it comes in, you've got, let's measure it out. You've got those kinds of winds across that swath. So there it is. It moves up the peninsula. That's a lot of wind. That's a lot of wind on both sides. A little bit stronger here, but still really strong winds here. So, and it's a Category 5. So with a Category 5, what happens is you get the sustained winds in a smaller area. That would be that darker orange. The lighter orange is the tropical storm force winds. So there's a big swath of wind that's coming in. Also, of course, there's a little bit of a storm surge. Could it go back and forth? Yep. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that it could do. I don't want to lie to you about that. But how about timing? So here's a great map. They have done this. You're so welcome. The Hurricane Center, this is an experimental thing too, by the way. This is the first year that they've done this. So look at, and they're trying to show you, here's the cone of uncertainty. It'll go this way or it'll go this way, but all within this area, here's the timing of wind. Okay, most of us are in Tallahassee. We can, remember how big it is. The earliest we might see some winds is Sunday night. That's what it's saying. The earliest we're going to see some winds Sunday night. Now, the lighter green, that's a tropical storm force wind. The darker is the hurricane force wind. Bev's got a huge bet with her husband that it will move to the east side. What's your prediction? I wouldn't take that bet. I really wouldn't take that bet. But we've got wind. So what if it were to shift to the east? It could shift a little bit more to the east. That would leave us with less of an impact. If it shifts more to the west, obviously it's more of a impact. Okay, so we know that. Again, I just want you guys to realize the timing. We're looking at winds Sunday. Could be in the afternoon when they start picking up, especially for some folks that are a little bit more to the east or a little more to the southeast. You're so welcome, Yarnell. But just realize that we're going to start seeing stuff on Sunday. And I know most of you have already, gone out, gotten your supplies, so we know exactly what's been going on. All right, what else do we know? How about this? Here's your satellite view. This is unbelievable because of the size, but as you watch it, that spot in the center where it's all clear, that's the eye. It's a well-defined eye. Now, inside, there's nothing going on in terms of the weather, but that's the center, and when you see the paths and you see that skinny black line, that's what they're marking. They're marking the center here. Well, again, the weather's outside. All around and outside, and, this area that they've got colored in pretty nicely with almost that purple color, that's your eye wall. That's your wind speeds that are the strongest. That's where the rain is going to be the heaviest. And what's it doing right now? Well, it moved across the Virgin Islands. This is Puerto Rico. So it kind of skimmed just north of Puerto Rico. And here's Hispaniola. You've got Haiti on the western side. You've got Dominican Republic on the right-hand side. And it's kind of skimming that. Now, there's a lot of mountains. A lot of people were thinking, you know what? If it brushes the mountains, then maybe it'll start... wondering what the yellow up here, Donna, is that what you're asking about that? Best Buy was trying to call me back. But they just color in the cloud tops. So these are the tallest cloud tops. And then there are clouds here as well, but they're not quite as tall. The rains there wouldn't be quite as heavy. It wouldn't be as intense. So we're getting a little bit of a coloring kind of indicating the intensity of the rain that's going on. And, we kind of liken that to the intensity of the storm. So here's Hispaniola. Rides up the backbone. There's the spine of it. A little bit of interaction, but the only thing we saw today, think about it. We went from 185 to 175. It's only a 10-mile-an-hour drop of winds. I was really hoping for something more significant. Then we've got Cuba, same deal. Got a lot of mountains here. That could be really, really helpful. Mountains could help to kind of disrupt the circulation, but again, it's got to move across it for that to happen, but we're seeing it right up the spine. And that backbone is just a brushing impact. Every little bit helps at this point, so we're kind of happy when something happens. But, as it starts to, move in. And on this one, you get the symbol, right? There's your hurricane symbol, so that's where it is right now. There's Haiti, Dominican Republic. There's the whole island of Hispaniola. That's where it is north. Remember, it's not that small, but that's your symbol you've got. So here it is. We still think it's going to go in that way. And so what I said to you, I like that. I do. I like the 3-day forecast. I like the white. I like all of that as they have it shaded in. Confidence is pretty good. This is not really much of a stretch. You don't have a lot of oscillation, either on the right side or on the left-hand side. It should generally fall within this area. Then the turn comes. So what's going to turn the hurricane? Mountains and BVI didn't slow her down. I know, Mary. I kind of wish there was more, but it's such a small island, there was nothing that they could do. There's big high pressure here. High pressure goes like this. Goes clockwise. So what has to happen is, as it starts to lift a little bit more north, it's slightly north of west. As it starts to lift a little bit, we need the high pressure to kind of wrap around on the backside and then turn it. So if that high pressure were a little bit closer, it could turn it a little bit sooner. But it's not that close, and it's got to lift to get caught in on that backside in order for that to happen. So that's what we're hoping for. The other side of this, by the way, guys, there's a front coming down. Remember how fantastic today's weather was? It's hard to believe that we may be experiencing an incredible change. But as that front comes down, it's a cold front. It's already passed through. It's stationary now. So they're going to do a little bit of battle. The hurricane comes up, front comes down. Front wins. Not because it's stronger. Front wins because it's bigger. So it'll buckle around, and then it'll kind of tilt like this, the front. It's a stationary front. And then it falls apart. And then it slides, and that's when we need that sweep. So there's so much going on at this point. There's been some changes. Today was a change. The change happened simply because the models ran. The models ran. We get different types of computer models. We add them together, and you get maps like this. You know, pick the one you want. I want the one way out here. Probably far to the right's not going to happen. Probably far to the left isn't going to happen. And so what you see, most of the models are in here. Here's your spaghetti map. And so the Hurricane Center, they sit, they look, and they say, you know what, in between, we're going to go this way. And so that's what you're seeing. And honestly, when you think about what you have seen in terms of all of these things, hi, Gasna, it's been doing exactly what they said it was going to do. Stop looking at days 4 and 5. And I'm not trying to preach to you guys, but that's where all of that uncertainty is. And today I printed up maps. You can see it every time you look at the long range for any significant hurricane that you can remember. Sandy, they had over here. Remember, Sandy went that way. Irene, they had over here. Irene hit. So they know 175 miles is the average error in the 4-day forecast. 225 miles is the average error in the 5 days. So you really can't pay attention to that. Laura, you're so welcome. It's just, things happen. Watch this. This is right. This is going to be the most accurate. You'll see a little bit of a wiggle. Sometimes we call it a wobble. It'll go back and forth. So worst case scenario, what happens? It comes in like this. It could hit the straits. Remember, the water's really, really warm here. I don't think there'll be much more intensification because, you know, it'll start interacting with land. So again, that'll help. A little bit of the mountains in Cuba, some of South Florida, and then it starts to move. It could come in this way. It still could shift a little more to the right. It still could shift a little more to the left. We all need to stop being armchair meteorologists. That's the line that I kind of picked up. You know, we can all guess. You know, we can put money on it. We can throw a pool into it later, and whoever gets it, gets it. I don't want to be right. I think it's going to hit Florida. How significantly, and I think we're all convinced that it's going to hit Florida. How significantly is really going to be it. Sandra, thank you for that, and I'm hoping that your family is safe over in Panama City. So you got to keep watching. Here's the problem. I'll tell you what the problem is. I'm going to switch this around. You know what the problem is? The problem is the Harvey effect. That's what I'm calling it. Harvey came in. We saw it. It slowed down. It stalled out. And over the weekend, we had an extra day. Everybody ran to the stores. Go ahead, raise your hand if you ran to the stores. We all ran to the stores only because, A, we had some time, and we didn't want to be caught the same way we thought the residents in Texas were. So we prepared. I'm so proud of everybody for doing everything that they did. It's exactly what you should be doing. Jose, honestly, Mary, it shouldn't be drafting on anything. Let me go back here for a second. Bear with this, guys. Where are we? Here we are. All right, so there's Jose. Usually, right, here's Irma, here's Jose. Normally, it's moving across the same path. A previous hurricane would have cooled the water down. And so a lot of times, if now the newer hurricane moves across the same path, it doesn't have the same kind of energy that the first one did. And so usually, you know, there's nothing usual about any of these things, but normally it stops it. But unfortunately today it's been really developing, and we're still watching it. I'm kind of hoping it lifts. It did look like at some point there would be more of a turn toward the north as opposed to west. I'm still hoping that we get to see that. And part of it may be that same high pressure, that big ridge of high pressure that's going to push our storm, Irma, toward Florida, could help to kind of lift this thing more toward the north. So there are some other things that we can try to be optimistic about. Unfortunately, and I know it's going to impact your daughter, these are not things that we want to hear about. Let's see. I was going to pull up another map. By the way, I'm trying to read and do this at the same job, so thanks, Rick. I just, I'm trying only because I think today everybody went crazy today. I don't know what happened, if all of a sudden there was water out there, but, then all of a sudden we started to get a little bit nervous. Okay, how about rainfall? We are not going to see what Harvey did. Did you guys hear me? We are not going to see what Harvey did. Two things. One, it's moving. It's the most important thing. This thing is moving. I know Governor Scott said, and I'm going to refute him, he said that this thing was faster. Nope. This is a little bit slower than Andrew was. Andrew actually picked up speed when it was headed toward Dade City, and it picked up to like 26 miles an hour. So this is moving a little bit slower than that, but still a whole lot faster than Harvey. Cindy wants to know, where do I think it will be at the Tallahassee airport going through Charlotte Monday afternoon? I think that's where you're going to start to have problems. I think through Sunday we'll be okay, but then we can't, after that, make any kind of a guess as to what's going to happen. And I think really that could be significant. So even the rainfall amounts, look at the legend over here, right? You guys can see the totals. Top end, purple, that's 20. That's down here, off the Bahamas. That's what it is. We're going to get rain. But as long as it keeps moving, and it will, as long as it keeps moving, it moves in, it moves out. However, it impacts us. So, we have that working for us. The guys at the Hurricane Center, and I do know personally most of the hurricane directors, they've always said we want fast moving, and then we also want nighttime hurricanes. And one of the reasons we want nighttime hurricanes, believe it or not, you guys don't tend to take a risk when it's at night, though during the daytime hours you might. So there's that. Here's the wind, and here's the wind swath. So as I was saying before, see the color up here? There's the orange, that's the tropical storm. There's the red, that's the hurricane force. So here's the hurricane as it's been moving. And this was late Tuesday into Wednesday when it had, I called it an expanded wind field. It got bigger. So as it got bigger, the area that was impacted by these winds all of a sudden started to grow as well. So this core area of that deep red is all hurricane force winds, and then outside it, that's where all your tropical storm force winds. The models are not in 3D, guessing them because I'm on my computer screen and it's flat, it's not curved. So apologize for that. So we have that. And again, here's the Hurricane Center's version of when is it all coming? I wish I could tell you everything concretely. I'm not trying to be coy. I really am not. But remember, it's, 16 or 17 miles per hour. Big thing. It's like moving an elephant. It takes a while. So it's coming up, right? It'll come up in this area. We want it to interact with Cuba so that the mountains here can slow down the wind speeds. I don't really know how much interaction it'll have, but, there'll be some. And then it goes. Now, if it comes in like this, at least if Florida's going to be impacted, it would be by the slightly weaker side, the west side. A little bit more to the right, again, even better for us. I would love that to happen. It's not going to happen. We can't bank on it. We can't wish a hurricane away, though sometimes I think we all wish we could do that. I don't think it's going to take that kind of a path up the west coast, even if it makes the curl around the straits here. It should start to make the turn at some point. Once it turns and then it crosses the state. And we just need it to keep moving. So we're kind of hoping that happens. That really is the thing that we're banking on. There's a lot of storm surge that could potentially, are they going to show this? Oh, I have to understand because they don't want to show it to us if we're not going to agree to it. So there's what they're thinking in terms of storm surge. They've got storm surge watch up. So that's where the rise of water is way above it. I can't believe that there are still people that have mandatory evacuations that are refusing to leave, and that's problematic. The Keys, everybody should be out, but you know, those diehard residents don't want to go. They're the ones that have been there forever. They don't want to go anywhere. But, you know, if it comes in this way or if it comes in this way, South Florida is impacted first. So the storm surge there right now is where it's going to be greatest. If it keeps moving, we'll be in much better shape. But again, we kind of have to bank on all of it moving. And honestly, it's got to move pretty quickly. The bigger problem, I think, is the size. It's really big. All of that area that you see in the purple, that's where our hurricane force winds are. So we got a large area on either side. I's about 20, 25 miles across. I don't really remember what the exact dimension was. Let me go back to this page. This, by the way, is a great resource for those of you that are watching. Let's see, where is it? SpaghettiModels.com. If you can see this, it's SpaghettiModels.com. He's got everything on this site. So it's a great resource. Some of it's a little too technical, but you guys can handle it, and I know you can. So you get everything that you want to know. So Valerie says her cousin's in Pompano Beach. His father-in-law won't leave. Yeah, I know. We all have seen those people. We all have dealt and had conversations with those people. So here are the different models. I'm going to show you the difference between what you see as the European and the American. So this one right here, ECMWF is what they call it. That's the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. Okay, there it is. You're so very welcome, Carrie. So all the models together think, okay, it's going to do that. So we got the pattern down, right? We know that. We know the turn. Big high pressure, it's going to turn. The problem, of course, is it's got to get sucked into that high to start making the turn. And so I'm not trying to dumb it down. I'm just trying to explain it because I'm not sure. If I'm not hearing it where it makes sense, I'm not sure that you guys are hearing it where it makes sense. And honestly, this is my whole purpose for doing this, you guys. Just so you know it. So there's a lot more coming in from the European models, and you see all of it, but there's the pattern. Now, it's not like the U.S. takes the pattern and says it's going to be any different. Our models, and that's this GFS thing, our models are saying the same thing. Here we go, right? You got the same pattern, but again, where is the turn? Now, believe it or not, today in the discussion from the Hurricane Center, they said they were actually looking pretty closely at the FSU Super Ensemble. And I love that because I helped to write some of the code for that for my thesis. So I understand that pretty well, and it has done a good job in the past. And so when they start adjusting, what they see is, well, if the models were going here and we find the hurricane there, our confidence builds that that's running a good, run. And so let's put a little bit more confidence in that. Let's look at it a little bit more closely. And that's how they do it. You get two different versions. You hear European and US. They're pretty similar. They just have maybe a better collection of the models here. There are fewer of those models, but they're all pretty much doing the same thing. So I want you guys to know that. Here's your satellite view. It's pretty big. So what are you getting here? Well, let's see. This one's going to move a little bit. No, it's not. The one down here is going to move a little bit. Here you go. You got to love live, right? So you got Cuba. It's still, there's the center. It's still staying slightly north of Cuba, though. So keep that in mind. It's not going to lose much, but, the outer bands, because that's what you can see, the outer bands here, they brush across. It could help to slow it down, but, it's over open water, that temperature. You guys have been in the Caribbean to many of these islands. It's so ridiculously warm. It's not going to shut down anything at that point. So we're looking at this. Okay, they got these planes in there. They have 3 planes at one time the other night, and all of a sudden the models got really, really good. Here's your wind analysis. Now on this one, let's see, we're watching the tracking. This is based on their guidance, so you actually get to see the little icon there? That's the symbol of where they think it's going to be, or at least the center was. Now here's the previous path, right? That's the history. So there it was. Here it is as it came in. Again, there you got Puerto Rico. Here are the Virgin Islands coming up. Here's Hispaniola. It didn't really get that close. And you might remember that when Gene came in 2004, there were like 4,000 people that lost their lives in Haiti because of all the flooding. So it's gotten close. They don't really have very many places to evacuate to, but there it is, and it's still north. So the red, where you see the shading of the red there, that's where it is right now. Their best, and this is all those guys sitting down and saying, okay, we looked at all the different computer models, we see this, we looked at the plane information. Here's what our best guess is for the position. So still through this area, before it heads more toward the state of Florida, confidence is good. It's not going to be linear like that. It's not going to travel in a straight line. It's going to be slightly north of west, which is why you hear west-northwest. So there it is, right? Comes in. Not a lot of land. Again, a little bit more here on the south side, so it'll brush up against Cuba. And there it goes. And then, of course, here's South Florida. So this is going to be the telltale sign. You know what? I got no secrets here. Here's 80 degrees. At school today, I told everybody the same thing. Watch the 80-degree longitude. If, and they're looking at it coming this way. If it crosses 80 degrees before it turns, we get more of an impact. You guys with me on that? Right? If it keeps going like this and it crosses 80 degrees, so it's now west of that 80-degree longitude line, if it crosses, we get more of an impact. So even when it's still down here, you'll actually start to see that trend happening. Now, if it doesn't cross over 80 degrees, so much better for our state. It really is. It kind of approaches. If it doesn't cross, it means that's where the turn's going to start. And what's going to happen is, and again, these are things that you guys should just know because I know these things. It'll start slowing down. And so remember, we've been going west-northwest, 16, 17, back down to 16. All of a sudden, it may go down to 13, could be 12 or 13 miles an hour, and then it won't cross that longitude, and that'll be the turn. So that'll be the signal, at least in my mind, that'll be the signal that this thing is beginning to turn. We need the turn to happen. We would love for that turn to happen out here, staying away from the state, but probably not. So again, there's your wind field. Remember, it's large, so the hurricane itself, even though it looks like that little small speck here, the winds, the clouds, it takes up one of these boxes, really, really large. So as it comes in, if it were to run up the center of the state, the whole peninsula, both side winds. Certainly that's not anything that we want, but I also don't like that. And again, that's probably why I don't want to, it's not like I'm ignoring it. I just know that there's also 175 to 225, miles of error. So it could be over here. It really could. And people will yell, you guys were wrong, you guys are wrong. And I'm thinking, nope. We said it was going to do this, and then we weren't really sure, but we told you we weren't really sure. So don't focus on that. And just, recognize the fact that if it comes over here, you know what? I'm throwing a party. I will buy every single one of you guys a drink. We'll have hurricanes together if it's over here. If it's over here, the other side of it be well to the west, that would really not bode well for us. So, either side it could go. Honestly, I wanted you guys to get a sense of what's happening here. We don't know everything. Honestly, we don't. I wish we did. We're good. We're getting better at it. Oh, you know what? Because I got chargers. You should see my little setup. I'm going to show it to you here in a second. Here's what I got. I got an iPad. I got a computer. Wait, I have a Powerade. Last year I was drinking wine. I got everything, it's down and dirty, and I got wires here and there, just so that I can try to help show you guys exactly what's going on. And I want you guys to know that. I'm doing my best. I don't know everything. I know a little bit more than most, and I'm not saying that to, blow my own horn, but, I know hurricanes. I've actually done them for a long time, and I know them well, and I'm pretty good with them. I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty good with them. So just know that all of this is out there. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I know most of us were in the stores. If you went to the stores, it was like Thanksgiving and Christmas all rolled into one. Stores are packed. I shared some of the tips on my Facebook page. You guys also know this. You don't have to spend so much money. I know we all have to buy supplies, but you want to make sure you have the non-perishables, the traditional stuff, batteries, so you can have some communication. Make sure you have gas in the car. And I've even told my students, don't let it go below half a tank until this thing gets closer. But the other thing is, fill up. I love Ziploc bags. It's my favorite tip, and you guys have heard me say this before, but fill them 3/4 with water, right? The gallon ones. So you don't have quite a gallon, but you need to make room because it's going to freeze and expand. Stuff them everywhere around your freezer. So this way, and do this 2 days out. So I'm relying on you guys. If we're going to see some winds on Sunday, that's when we could get some power outages. But on tomorrow night, let's say tomorrow night, the latest, stuff them in and around the freezer. That'll pack everything in, and then they'll freeze. Now you got blocks of ice everywhere. So if you lose the power, now you still got a nice, cool temperature inside your freezer. And then as time goes on, you guys can drink it because you can now have some nice chilly water, and it's clean, it's fresh, and you didn't spend money other than having to buy the bag. So it's really one of the reasons why I love that tip, because it's inexpensive and it's right there and we can all do it. I don't want to fight over this with anybody at the store. I don't know if you guys have fought with people over the store, but Joy is going to Atlanta. Go to Atlanta for okay, well, Valerie, did you tell everybody to shut up because I was speaking? Because that's the only thing that's going to make me laugh at this point. I've realized how exhausting this is. And again, I'm saying this because this is how I'm feeling. It's exhausting. And it's not like I mind any of this stuff. I live for this stuff. But it's exhausting because we've been watching it for a while. Think about it, right? Last weekend, you heard about it, you watched it, and then it started to come. We saw what happened with Harvey over in Texas, and I'm not dealing with that. You're not dealing with that. So we went out and we try to be a little proactive here. I call it ambitious. We all went. We started to do the supplies. And, most of us, I think, we have to be patient. Maybe we've gone back a couple of times, but most of us have been able to get what we need. I just hung up on my mom. Don't hang up on your mom, Valerie. That's terrible. Mary, I don't think we have to evacuate. And the other side of this is, and we knew this was going to be a problem in 2005 with all the storms that we got. We had crisscrossing hurricanes, and we get this thing called over-evacuation, which means people that don't need to go get into a panic, and then they get on the roads. Now you've got more people, and you've got slower traffic, and we're consuming more gas, and people are getting short in terms of temperament. So we don't have to evacuate unless, and I'm going to change that answer, if you're a coastal resident. If you're a coastal resident and it's coming up, you need to evacuate. If you're a mobile home resident, you need to evacuate. And I'm not going to say it any more clearer than that. You got to go. You really do. It's so not worth staying in your house and wondering whether or not, either you're going to survive or the house is going to survive. Didn't Governor Scott say this? We can rebuild your house. We can't replace you, or something along those lines. So think about that. You know what? Take important things with you. Take important information with you. And then if you have to go, you go. You have some of it with you. And then you come back and you figure it out. And, we're in this together. So if you have to figure it out, we'll help you along with all of that stuff. And we'll make sure that everybody's okay. Right now, the way it looks, with the trend kind of shifting a little bit, it would have a greater impact for us. So I just want you guys to see that one more time, right? Here's the shift. Now the path is just a little bit more to the west. Okay, the more west, and obviously most of us are here. The more west it shifts, the more of an impact it has. It will keep going back and forth. Don't be surprised when you see it. In the short term, it'd be less of a nudge. You won't see it move very much. It's going to go like this up the backbone of Cuba, and then here's where you're going to see more. And that's why they do the big cone. See how it flares out? The flaring out is longer range, more uncertainty. And so that's where it gets a little tricky. But not so much uncertainty here. But even where there's less uncertainty, we still have an impact in Florida. Now, a better situation, of course, would be quick turn. I mean, if it's going to hit, get in and get out. But again, we don't know. We need that big high to build. We need it to sweep in on the backside of it. And then, really start turning it or curving it a little bit north and then perhaps northeast. But, get it away from the coastline. If it were to take this, let's play the what ifs, right? Let's take that path, right? So here it is. It's here. Remember, 200 miles either side. It's really 175. It's actually 370 in total, but we'll call it about 400. It fills in a box. All right, so here's a box. Right? And these are latitude and longitude. I'm just trying to simplify it today. But the whole box is about the dimension of the hurricane. So as it comes in, both sides going to get impacted. Farther away from the center, less of an impact. But if it were to come in like this and go like this, it would be a severe impact for the entire peninsula. Less of an impact over in the far western Florida panhandle. So if you guys are over there, you're probably the only ones probably not seeing either tropical storm force or even the hurricane force winds. That's the only way that's going to happen. If it follows this, that's what's going to happen. Everybody's going to get something. You're probably not. Here, it's going to be a whole lot more. All right. What if it does that. And remember, that's what we were looking at a little bit earlier. It may have brushed along the east coast of Florida. You guys might remember last year, Matthew, right? If you remember Matthew of last year, that's what happened. Big, powerful, stayed off the east coast, and then ends up making landfall just west of Charleston. And there was some sort of an impact, but it was far less of what it could have been. So more to the east would really bode well. But, here's what happens. Here's what I know happens. The Hurricane Center in 3 days will do a left adjustment. It's just the way the models run. They left adjust, and then as the hurricane is about to make landfall, it right adjusts. And it's always right adjustment over at landfall. So this is good. This is probably going to happen, and then we got to see where the turn happens. The worst case scenario, for us here in Tallahassee, obviously worst case scenario. It would swipe out it'd be on the right-hand side of direction of motion, but it would swipe across the entire peninsula, and then coming up here, we hate landfalling hurricanes along the Gulf Coast. We do. We hate them because the shelf is so shallow and the surge is so high. It's a little bit deeper on the Atlantic, so you won't get as much of a storm surge, but right now they're still in South Florida. They're still looking at perhaps a 9 to 12 foot surge, and all of that may depend on speed. So this is the latest. That's at 5 o'clock, and that's what it's doing. That's 5 o'clock, and that's, of course, tonight. So how often do these things come out? 2, 5, 8, 11. 2, 5, 8, 11. Every 3 hours, AM and PM. So if you're waiting for some information, it's probably why I'm not sleeping, because I can't go until I see the 11 o'clock advisory at night. 2, 5, 8, and 11. And this would be the Hurricane Center. So let me, in case you're looking, let's see, there they are, nhc.noaa.gov. That's their main site, and that will get you the best information. So you can pull up what I'm showing you. You can pull up the bulk of these graphics, but you'll get, at least down and dirty, you'll get the most recent. They're doing a good job, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of traffic on their site, so it has been slow at times. But you'll get all the information that you guys need. So 2, 5, 8, 11. AM, 2, 5, 8, 11. PM, every 3 hours we're getting this information. So it's coming in pretty quickly. I think at 11 o'clock tonight. No, they're not. They don't usually update every hour. They did yesterday give updates on the positions, Annette, because what happens is as they get close and we get radar to kind of show us exactly where it is, you can get the hourly update. So they'll give a position estimate when it's really close to land, but right now it's kind of far away, so they haven't been doing it, or at least I haven't seen it most of the day, but the regular advisories are 2, 5, 8, and 11. But yeah, you may actually see a position estimate somewhere in between. So still, it's got 175 mile an hour winds. What do we know? Actually made a graphic about this. Andrew was a small, if any of you was in South Florida, Andrew was small. Andrew was maybe 160 miles across. Tiny. So this is about twice that size. Keep that in perspective. Twice the size of Andrew. A little bit stronger than Andrew because 10 years after it hit, they said Andrew had 165 mile an hour winds. Right now this one's 175. It's moving a little slower though than Andrew. I'm just doing the comparison in numbers. It's moving at 16, Andrew at some point 26. So not quite twice the speed, but a little bit faster. But it is moving. So I want you guys to remember that as well. Harvey, slow-moving, stalled out, flooding rain. That was the biggest nightmare because it was so slow-moving. Hi, Jennifer, you're up in New York. Aren't you upstate New York still? So we're not going to have that issue that they had in Texas with Harvey. Just, keep that in mind so we're safe about that. If you're along the coast, if you have friends along the coast, if you have family along the coast, and again, if they keep this the way it's going, we're in good shape. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate you too. The way it's going, we wouldn't have much of a storm surge because it rotates counterclockwise, right? It takes this path, it moves counterclockwise. Everything along the North Florida coast is moving offshore. I'm not concerned about flooding. I'm not concerned about storm surge here if it takes that. Now, what if, and I love that you're watching, Barbara, because you may be getting some of the remnants down the road here. If it shifts, then it could have more of an impact. But right now, as long as it stays to our right, everything should be offshore. It may not be the case in the southern tip of the peninsula because they could still get some surge, but the flooding is definitely going to happen. And that's why Frank was my godfather. I don't know that you remember that, but I think I said that to you when we were at the wake for Frank. Yeah. And he should like the weather. I think, and especially when something like this is going on, I think everybody wants to know what's going on, and we'll all see together. There's no magic here. We don't have closed doors where we sit there and we say, let's see where we can put the hurricane. We watch, we monitor, and then we see where it's going, and then we make a guess. This is a guess. That's all it is. It's a guess. Your son is in Cape Coral. Time to come up to yeah, Monica. He shouldn't leave any later than, let's say, Saturday night. I would hate Sunday, because by then the winds are coming in. Because I don't know that you remember. Let's see, where were we on the wind? Here's the wind. Monica, this one's for you, right? So there's the states covered by all the winds, but this is an experimental product the Hurricane Center is using this year. Saturday morning, it's down here. Saturday evening, this is the reasonable estimate of the arrival of at least tropical storm force winds. So these are the weakest winds. So, gauge it. You want to get out before the winds are coming in. I'd love for him to be out by Saturday. Earlier would be better, but I know everybody's got things that we're still trying to do. We have work, we have, people that we're trying to help out. Do your best, but at this point you can make changes. I don't know that you guys saw the other post, and I'm sure you've seen it on TV, but the airlines are really helping out. They capped the price at $99, so they're helping to try to evacuate many of the South Florida residents because, we got to get them out quickly. And the other thing is, honestly, they don't want the planes there. Not when a hurricane's coming, so let's get traffic out. Good. Monica, I'm glad to hear that. If he can leave tomorrow, that's even better. In South Florida, they closed all that. Statewide, state employees don't have to show up tomorrow. So you guys are fortunate that, unfortunately, they call you non-essential, but you don't have to report to work. But the nice thing is you can get everything prepared as you need to. So whether it's, just buying some additional supplies or making sure that you have everything that you need, you then can check on your friends and your neighbors. And, I'm not pontificating. I've done the soapbox thing today. But I like the Ziploc bag thing, and you guys have heard that hint before. Check on your neighbors. Make sure they're okay. My neighbor across the street in Hermine had the tree come through, and when it did, Ted ran over in the middle of the hurricane, and insulation was coming out. And so I went over yesterday. They're supposed to be leaving for North Carolina. They have a son there. And I asked him, I'm like, are you guys going? And they said no. They're going to stay. He said he's going down with the ship. It's an older retired couple. And I hate it because I think it's a little stressful that way, but I totally get that you want to be here if something happens, just to really make sure that, it's your house. You feel like you want to be in protective mode. I get all that. But if you're going to stay, do the right thing. We don't, people ask, how come we don't have shutters in North Florida? We don't usually get the kind of winds that in Central and South Florida you guys see. We don't have shutters. We also, don't get the winds. But the other thing is people think, oh, you could just duct tape your windows. Please don't duct tape your windows. Don't duct tape your windows. Say it with me. Don't duct tape the windows. The whole purpose, people said, oh yeah, you hold the window. You don't hold the window together. Yeah, you're going to hold some pieces of the glass if it cracks. You need to board the outside to stop the wind from breaking the glass. And if that window doesn't break, by the way, you got to pull the tape off. It's a pain in the butt. You know how difficult it can be to pull it off. So Valerie wants to know, what are the chances part of your fence is going to come? You know what? I thought of you when I thought about this. We have one more side of the fence on this side, actually, that needs to be replaced. We were waiting because our neighbors told us that they were going to clear out the yard. They have a lot of trees, and then they were going to finally sod it in. And so I said to Ted, let's not do it until because ours is still panel right now, so they could pull the panels, and it could help them get the trees down. So if any side of the fence has got to get some damage, that's the only side I'm going to allow for it to happen. Other than that, I don't want anything to kind of hit at this point. So you guys did everything right, I'm assuming. You have gasoline in your car, and that is not because you got to go, because I don't want you guys going, again, unless you're at the coast or unless you're in a mobile home, but in case in the aftermath we still don't have power and you got to be able to travel, now you have the gasoline. So you've got gasoline, you've got food and drinks and that kind of stuff. Remember, of course, non-perishables. And you may have a cooler and you may be able to keep it cool for a couple of days, but the unfortunate side of this is We typically prepare for 3 days, no power. 3. We want you to prepare for 7. Not trying to scare you, but because of how significant this thing is. 175-mile-an-hour winds, 200 miles of, tropical storm force winds on either side. So we think we could be without power much longer than Hermine. And remember, we were in Hermine, we had 80-mile-an-hour winds. So this one's more than twice that. So think about could be out of power for a week, which would be terrible, but, possible. So make sure that you have non-perishable food, and I guess we'll all do what we have to do to kind of get through it. Make sure you have some drinks, some batteries, get some information, and really, you got to listen. Local radio stations will be able to broadcast, so make sure you have access to that. I think, this day and age, we're all relying on Wi-Fi. Here's a hint I'm going to tell you. I posted it the other day. Check your plan. Check your data plan. Before the Hurricane Hermine hit, I said to Ted, I'm going in the shower. It's going to be the last one for a while. Call Verizon and change the plan because, remember, power goes out, no Wi-Fi. Now, you still have cell phone service because the towers may still be operational, but the problem would be you're going to eat the data. And I don't want to pay for, I'm not cheap, but I'm trying to be practical. I don't want to pay for overage. I want to pay for my plan. Change your plan. You can jack it up. You can lower it later if you don't need it. But if you are proactive and you take care of it ahead of time, then they won't be able to charge you. Can I put up a shadow box fence? Stays up better with winds. I'm not really worried about the fence. It can go because it's going to get replaced, and it's only one side. We've actually replaced the other 3 sides at this point. And you're right, Gary. We're going to have all kinds of utility companies coming in to help us, but we want to make sure that we're good until everybody can come in and help us. Because the worst thing is people just being pitiful, sitting there going, all right, where's FEMA? The first response has to be us. And then we can have, local government and the state government and then finally the federal government in order helping us. But we have to help ourselves too. I don't want us to be solely reliant on them. Have all your charges done. Have everything charged up ahead of time as best you guys can. We have a couple of backup chargers. My brother sent me this. It's a great little network. I can put like 4, I think, USBs in it. So if that thing is charged, then I can charge up some other items with that. And I'm sure that you guys are running your car engines and trying to recharge that way. And all of that can be really, really helpful. I like the concept of making sure your neighbors are okay. Just check in with them. I want them to make sure, A, they know the information. They got to know it's coming. This should not be a surprise to anybody. Again, I'm exhausted. We're all exhausted. We've been watching this thing for more than a week. So it can't be a surprise because it's leading the news and you're watching all these supplies kind of go out. But and I promise you, I'm not trying to be coy about this. We don't know everything. We really don't. We know where it is, where it's been, and in the short term where it's going. That's what we know. So the white area you can watch. And then we're not sure. So as it keeps coming in, as it keeps coming toward the state of Florida, of course this is where we're all going to see the impact. And we, rightfully so, should be concerned. If you have a Bluetooth speaker, charge them up. They usually have ports that charge. You know what? I do. I'm a dork. I have an iPod that's got the radio on it, and I don't have regular radios otherwise, but, I can charge that up and it broadcasts. It's a male-to-male adapter that goes to my Bluetooth speaker, so I can plug my iPod in it, and everybody can listen to music in the local radio stations. And it makes me happy, because it cost me $1.99, and I was very happy when I found it. But, I was bored. I was over the summer, and I thought, oh, we could use this, just in case. Here's something too, by the way, guys. People, and I know it's going to happen in the whichever way this goes, whether we get slammed or we don't have much of an impact, and of course we're all hoping for that. I'm going to hear you guys were wrong, you guys were wrong, you guys were wrong. Okay. I want to be wrong, and I want this thing over the Atlantic. I do. I want to be totally wrong. If it's wrong, I'm going to take all the supplies I bought, I'm going to donate them. And I'm hoping that you guys think the same thing. If it doesn't hit us, for all the stuff that you guys may have purchased, we've got students at school and there's a food bank that's set up. I'm going to bring it there. Some of the waters we're going to use because, we're still in the football season, but I'm going to donate the rest. And If that's something that you guys might want to be thinking about, think about it. Now, if it comes more severely, obviously it's not something that we can do, but it's not a waste. Going out and preparing is never a waste. You've got a peace of mind because you've made the right plans, you have prepared, you bought whatever, things you needed to buy, whatever your purchases had to be, you did it. Feel comfortable that you did the right thing. And I'm telling you this because you're here, probably here, oh, I'm going to wait. Don't wait. If you've got people, friends, neighbors, family, and they're still waiting, now we're in a 3-day window. This is our deadline. This is the time. If you haven't done it now you're going to be faced with everybody else at the last minute, maybe now recognizing that it's really coming. They're all going to be in the store with you. So keep encouraging those that are trying to be naysayers. Oh, it's not coming, it's not coming, it's there. It's not like you can close your eyes and say, okay, go away. It's not like we made this up and, this is pretend. It's there and it's kind of heading our way. We should absolutely send it down there. Hey, Sue, hope you guys are good, and you may get some rain in the aftermath, but you got a while yet before this comes. So think about everybody that may not know all of this stuff, and if you still have some friends and they can't be convinced, show them a couple of things. If you still can't convince them, you've done your best. You've given it a shot, and you tried to convince them, but that really is honestly all you can do at this point. And I have had, and some of you are them, Diane's offering to bring me the 5-gallon cans. I actually had my sister who found it, and her husband found it at a Home Depot, so we should be getting our gas cans tomorrow, so I'm going to fill them up tomorrow night. By the way, most of the trucks, this is what I found out, and I talked to everybody, most of the trucks are coming in at night. Supplies are still coming in. So the gas trucks are still coming in at night. As they come in at night, they're going to restock. Now, don't get gas when they're, replenishing. It's got to settle. But all this stuff is still coming back in. Even at Walmart, they're 24 hours down here, but even at Walmart, the new trucks are coming in. Now, they won't be able to tell you exactly what's on the truck. As I said, we were looking for gas cans, but the trucks are coming in. So if you're still looking for some supplies, try to be a little patient, but if you can go either really late at night or really early in the morning, it's your best time to do it. I say that because Ted took my car this morning, and I'm not the early bird, he is, and he opened the garage, he took off, he came back half an hour later. Hey, Jess, how you doing? And my car was filled. So early morning, because they may have come at night, maybe when they were closed down. So first thing in the morning, you may have to do it. You may actually have to get up early if you need some gasoline, some supplies, same deal. What is it? The early bird catches the worm? I think we have to go catch worms. I think that's what we're going to have to do at this point. So how about for those of you that are just joining us? Here's where we are. A little bit of a shift, a little bit more to the west. It'll keep going like that. Don't be surprised. And don't start changing your mind about what you're going to do. Don't change your mind about what you're going to do if you start to see a shift. Don't panic. I don't know how many times I've told you guys that. It'll do this, and then it could go a little to the right. It could go to a little to the left. Now, even if it starts to go more to the right, it still could lean left or west. I should use directions. Melissa, the panhandle, if it stays like this, if it follows this path, and we're up here, the far western panhandle won't have much. But it's a big storm, and this big storm has a lot of wind. That's not really the picture I wanted to show you. Okay, so there's the wind. The green color, right? And here's the key on the bottom. This is from the Hurricane Center too. So if you look at the arrival time of the winds, so there are the weaker winds, those are tropical storm force. And then here are the really strong ones. There's your hurricane force winds, right? That color, so the middle of this whole thing. And so here we are. We're Thursday night. Here are the winds in this area, because remember, it's a big storm. It's not that little point here. It's the big storm covering, 200 miles either side, a swath of 400. There it is. Here's the hurricane force wind. There's a little bit of tropical storm on the outside. Then it comes here. Now, if it follows, this is their path, and that's based on that track that I just showed you. Yeah, we're here, right? Here's Apalachicola, Tallahassee's here. We've got wind. How bad are the winds? If you follow the yellow, tropical storm force. That would be us. And I don't have to tell you guys this because we've been here a while. we get power outages and issues with tropical storm force winds. Okay, so that would be, that for us, that wouldn't be so terrible. Farther to the west, less wind. So maybe some gusts, barely some gusts, and it would be at the low end. It really is not much of a wind at all. So not so bad in the far western panhandle, a little worse for us. But the problem, of course, is that saying that works out. It's not going to follow a straight line. It's not going to do what we want it to do. It's not going to do what we think it's going to do. It's going to do what it wants to do. That's the problem. So we'll shift it. Shift it west. We get more hurricane force winds. All of the panhandle gets tropical storm force winds. The entire peninsula gets hurricane force winds. Coastline a little less. Shifts more to the right. That's better for everybody. So I don't have an exact answer, but here's where the confidence is good. Here's where accuracy is good in terms of the path and the track and the forecast. The intensity, it'll still be a Category 5. We're hoping it brushes land and starts to weaken. I'd love for it to be really, really weak. It won't happen. So it'll be strong, at least a strong Category 4, we think, as it approaches Florida. And if it were to follow this, again, have a severe impact for the rest of the peninsula, but more to the right, it's the weaker side of the hurricane. So, that's just some of the uncertainty. They're doing their best, but try not to pay attention to this. It's hard not to, because we all want to see eventually where it's going to go, but I can show you a path of Katrina where they had it over here. And of course, we all know it went there. I can show you a path where they had Sandy way out here. And then it shifted over here. And I did that today because I wanted to prove a point to this guy who said, I'm basing my forecast on the fact that I've been on a boat for, 30 years. It's going to miss us completely. It's going to stay out over the water. So I asked him where his degree was from because I was being feisty about it. The 4 and 5 days are always off. And we know they're, close to 200 miles off. So it's a lot of uncertainty. I really wish that we knew exactly what was going to happen at all times, but we don't. There's your satellite. If you don't realize just how large a system it is, there it is. Now, it's not the biggest we've ever had. Sandy, historically, is the largest hurricane in history. Sandy. And that one was not even a 1 when it hit the Northeast, but it was nearly 1,000 miles across. This is about 400. From side to side, 400 miles across. So it's a good area that's going to be impacted. It's just so much going on. And unfortunately, so much of an impact to such a populated area. For those of you joining and you don't know, I just want to show you a couple of websites. This one's really good. SpaghettiModels.com. So you hear the thing about spaghetti models and you see all the tracks. This one's got everything you want to know. All right, so let me get a little technical with you guys. I'm going to load something up here while I'm chatting with you. And I'm trying to read at the same time, so if you have a question, please ask. I'm going to load up. This is the U.S. model that we run, and we run it long range. And last week, and it was almost ironic, but last week when I ran it on Thursday, this storm, Irma, was going to hit the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and then up the eastern seaboard, it would end up in the Northeast, again, along the East Coast. So that was not something that we all wanted to watch. All right, so you're going to see animation now. Jess, you've had a couple of captains in our shop discussing the water level changes that they've already seen there. If they're seeing anything, Jess, it's not by this. It's too soon for that to happen. I promise you. Either, we had the front move through. It was pretty strong, and, there was a flow coming in off the south. But that was definitely not due to this. Let's see, where are we? All right, so I don't know what I'm showing you. How's that? I'm going to switch this around. I don't know what that is, so we're going to have to get out of that. Okay, let's see, NCEP, NCEP, NOAA. Okay. I just want you guys to see a computer model, see some of the differences that we've had. And, to me, it's always interesting. Oh, there we are. Model analysis. We've seen some differences. And you may have the sense that we haven't had a lot of confidence until a little bit later. That's absolutely true. And it's only because not until it gets a little bit closer do we really have a good sense of what's going on. All right, so there is a computer model that's now running. the last run, and this is all the stuff you guys saw if you watched the evening news tonight. That stuff was all based on, let's see, that would have been the 18Z. So here's the 0Z. And this one, that's this one. All right, so this is the very latest. All right, so there we are, right? And it's running. And so I'm going to stop it and then start it from the beginning. All right, and we'll go one more frame here. All right, so the green is the rain. That's all that is. And this little tight thing here is what we call isobars. So they're all wrapped in around Irma. Again, there's Hispaniola, so there's Irma just north. All right, now I'm going to let it animate, and it'll go pretty much every hour, but you'll see the motion where it's going to head toward. So watch it as it moves. All right, so where's it going? There it is, and you know, I'm comfortable and convinced that that's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to ride up the backbone. There's that spine of Cuba, right? So there it is. There's the center, and it's going this way. Okay, we would love at this point, this is why I was telling you guys to watch that 80-degree marking. We need for it to turn before it hits there. If it crosses it, then it's going to be more severe for Florida. So as you're watching it now, this is their last run. They haven't completed it. I think it's out for 7 days. It usually goes 14. It's not really looking quite so good for us, is it? Because what you're watching is that little bullseye. That's the center, and it seems to be moving up the peninsula. So if that were to hold, yeah, that would be a severe impact. And that would be it would be a severe impact for Tallahassee. Straight up the peninsula. That's pretty much all of the state except the far west. And that's only in the panhandle. So we're going to watch it. It's going to keep going a little bit right and left. And we have to keep watching it, and that's the whole thing. So let's see if we can't time this out again as to when they're showing. Let's see, we'll go back to first. We'll go here and let it go a little faster. All right. All right, so here's Friday. So we're in Friday. There's a timestamp up here that you guys can't see. Here's Friday. All right, here is, I'm going to go back a frame. This is what they're looking at. This is their forecast. This is 8 o'clock tomorrow night. So there's 8 o'clock tomorrow night. You're very welcome, Tricia. All right, I'm going to start it again. I'm going to try to do this daily. So now we're early morning hours of Saturday. This is 8 o'clock Saturday morning. This is what they're thinking. This is the computer model. So it's just one idea of what it could do. How's that? So again, here it is. Hasn't really turned yet because it's still kind of heading west-northwest. All right, and there it is. Now we're going through the afternoon, evening. That's 8 o'clock at night, Saturday night. All right, remember when we looked at the wind analysis, that map showed we could start to see some winds kind of up half the state of Florida Saturday night, right? Half the state could start to see some of those tropical storm force winds. Big field. All right, and that's because they have it moving up. All right, so here we are. This is Saturday, 8 o'clock Saturday night. Now we're going to roll towards Sunday morning. See what happened? Here's your 80-degree marking. It crossed over slightly, and now it's moving up. This is what I was trying to explain to you guys, that this is really one of our worst-case scenarios. We need for it to start lifting before it hits that 80-degree line. Because as soon as it hits that longitude, the turn there now is much more severe for the state. So the whole peninsula, could get slammed by those hurricane-force winds if this happens. So this is Sunday morning at 8 a.m. And the thinking at this point is it's starting to push ashore, at least it's impacting South Florida. At least this model is thinking that. All right, now this is Sunday daytime hours. Here is, let's see, this is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's almost in the center of the peninsula. I'm going to keep playing it for you. Here it's going. Now it almost appears as though the center is drifting a little bit more toward the east. It doesn't matter at this point. It's kind of already there. All right, let's keep going. All right, now we're 8 o'clock Monday morning. Right? 8 o'clock Monday morning. There it is. If this is 8 o'clock Monday morning, we got a bullet sitting here along the southeast coast. So, and there it is. I mean, that would be the problem. Again, it's one computer model. And then there it goes. So it'll fall apart pretty quickly once it's over land, but again, we don't necessarily know all that. Let's try a different computer model and see what they've got. The animation is actually quite good, because at least you guys get a sense of here's what we are looking at. Now, some of the other ones won't have that same time frame, so you won't get to see the long range. Here's another model. This is another U.S. model, by the way. But typically over land, they're better. And so the perspective is also a little bit off. All right, where are we? Stop first. Let's get the frame with the green. All right, so this is the NAM. This is the North America model. All right, so we call this, you guys are going to learn today, initializing. Wherever it starts, that's where we put the position that's initialized. And if they have this off by a little bit, you know, if they have it a little too intense or too weak, then, you know, the intensity could be off. But we're looking at motion now. We're not looking at anything other than where is this thing going. So this computer model, all right, there we're watching it. Same deal, right? You guys watching with me? Got it going up Cuba. All right, now, I don't know that you guys have noticed a little bit of a difference, but did you see that this one had it more along the east coast of Florida, as opposed to more toward the peninsula, right? That last one showed it right up the middle of the state. This one, if there's the center, drifts it a little bit more to the right, and that would be more along the east coast of Florida. Again, that's really, we'd love it to be farther east, but that's a different scenario. And the reason I'm trying to explain this to you this way, guys, it's because of this. So there's a path that's here, there's a path that's there, there's a path that's all over the place, but that's what they're basing it on. Put all those numbers, all those pieces of data into these different computers, crank out the results, here's what you get. And so there we are. All right, by the way, let's look at this, because we haven't really looked at the watches and the warnings at this point. Here we are. So there are the alerts. All right, so here in the orange, this is the southern end of Hispaniola. In the orange, these are tropical storm warnings. But remember, it's up here. The hurricane, Irma's up here. Here's tropical storm, tropical storm. The purple on the north side, these are all hurricane force warnings. So on the north side, they got all hurricane force warnings. Here, throughout the Bahamas, all hurricane force warnings, right? I don't know why I'm saying hurricane force. It's hurricane warnings. I think I'm tired. Here is Cuba, right? Now, if you look at in its entirety, it's in the center where there's the hurricane warning, and then just outside, on either side of the warned area, there's the watch area. So you've got a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning here, because you got the two colors of orange. There's a deeper and then the lighter, and then over here, it's just really the lighter color. And then right now, this orange, there's your hurricane watch. Watch means possibility in 2 days, 48 hours, that you're going to get hurricane conditions. A warning means within 36 hours it's going to happen. Elizabeth, are you Roanne's cousin? That would be a really good question. I don't think so. So these are the watch and warned areas. But that's right now. And that's because it's still, you know, kind of coming up in this area. So they're trying to make sure that everybody knows and is aware. And then the first impact, of course, is going to be here. And then after that impact, it's going to roll up the state. So the problem, of course, would be, you know, we don't know which side of the state, but based on the fact that there's that possibility of right in the middle, you know, it could be on both sides. Both hurricane force winds throughout the entire peninsula, and then only on the outside or in the outer limits, that would be the tropical storm force winds. But, you know, it's something that we're dealing with. So we're looking, timeline, Saturday morning at the earliest in South Florida. Across that area, this is, you know, these are the experts. Across this area is where we think the earliest hurricane force winds would be. In the lighter green, those would be tropical storms. So a lot of that's over the water. If it were to come in the way they think it's going to come in, then it's hurricane force wind South Florida. Think about that. Hurricane force wind South Florida. This is Saturday morning. Here's Saturday night. Hurricane force winds mostly, you know, in this area, but again, it's from coast to coast, east to west coast. There's hurricane force winds. Here now is Sunday morning. Sunday morning, we're up in the North Florida area. Could be looking at Jacksonville, hurricane force winds. You got Taylor County, hurricane force winds. If it stays here, and that would be certainly to our east, here in the Tallahassee area, we're probably not going to see those hurricane force winds. We may see some gusts to that intensity, but if you look at these colors, that would be the slightly weaker wind speed, so that would be the tropical storm force winds. And so there's your wind. Here's their best guess at the arrival. And this is the earliest. Here's the header. Earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds. Earliest reasonable. Now, it's possible and probable, by the way, that it takes a little bit longer to get here, but just, here's about when the timing of all this is going to happen. All right, we got a big hurricane, still a Category 5, pretty big, moving toward us. How directly or indirectly it hits us, not quite so certain. I don't know that we're ever really going to be certain. We've gotten a little bit, good at predicting this stuff, but we're not perfect. And Jessica, the same thing that you're saying about the water, this is what I'm thinking, that cold front moved through. So the front that came through, we got the cooler temperatures, but that's really what this thing is going to come up against. The front now is becoming stationary. It'll tilt a little bit more. So as it comes down, it could steer, it could block it completely if it were to sweep all the way down, but it's too weak now. It was cold, now it's stationary, it's a little bit weaker, and then that big high, it's got to get swept in on the backside. That thing is going to come up. So, there's a lot going on at this point. You guys know this. I'm just doing my best here to try to help you out, answer some questions. Is there a lot of validity to that? I've heard that is yes, and that's the whole thing, Jess. The front can be a steering mechanism. It's bigger, so it stops it from moving, but it can't take over because it's not that strong. And that really is the very different thing. We need to be very careful around downlines and don't run generators in the garage. I'm going to tell you an unfortunate story. I go to the hurricane conference, which is typically in the Bahamas annually. And there's this woman, Princess is her name, and I loved her. She was one of our helpers, and she helped to set the whole thing up. And last year, and I can't remember what hurricane it was, her husband is like former military. She and her husband were in the house with a grandchild, and they ran the generator in the house, and unfortunately, all three of them did not survive. And it broke my heart when I found that out. So you're absolutely right, Gary. Don't run your generators in your house. That is, it's got serious consequences. It's dangerous, to say the very least. It can be lethal, so don't do that. But do your very best. I've given you everything I got, guys. I'll keep updating. Now we're at 7:14. Remember what I said? 2, 5, 8, 11. 2, 5, 8, and 11. Every 3 hours, those are the regular times of the advisories from the Hurricane Center. When they're close to land, you may get position estimates, but those are the advisory times. 2, 5, 8, and 11. It's both AM and PM. So you'll get it morning and afternoon every 3 hours. When it gets closer, you get a little bit more in the way of updates. So our next advisory, we're at 7:14 as I'm looking at the clock. Next advisory is 8 o'clock. So what I'm showing you when you're looking at this, it's almost, it's more than 2 hours old. I don't think anything's going to change. I don't tend to see big changes unless it's the early morning run, 8 a.m., and I've seen some changes in the 5 p.m. run. Again, it's just stuff that I've noticed. So I think this is probably going to hold for tonight. If you guys want, just, hit me up with a question on Facebook. Put it public so I can answer and everybody can see the same things. But honestly, I just wanted to touch base. I don't want you guys to be nervous about this. We've all done a pretty good job, I think, at preparing and get ready for this. And that's honestly all we can do. I don't think it's going to be necessary for all of us to be running to hit the hills. And the problem, of course, then is we're not even sure where it's going. So where are we going to go? But make sure you got your supplies. Make sure you have everything you're going to need. Check with me if there's something that you're not really sure about. People are saying, well, I trust this person, and this person said it was going to go more toward the west. That person didn't say that. The computer model showed it. So all they're doing is they're repeating what we're all watching. So we're all watching the same stuff. Your information that you get, I don't care who you watch on TV, it all should be the same. Because it all comes from the Hurricane Center. These guys are the best. I've gone to grad school with most of them. They're really, really good. They're very, very accurate. And they're the only ones that can issue these watches and warnings. And that's where the information is coming from. So if you hear that somebody else is, off the path, I don't know what they're talking about. Or if they change it, everybody has changed it. So just know where the information is coming from and rely on them. If you trust them, rely on them. If they've done a good job, that's really the way to go down. I've had a lot of people reach out, by the way, Messenger, trying to ask, someone wants to don't be traveling to South Florida It is the worst thing. And even yesterday, as people were telling me that their kids or brothers, they all want to travel down, I had offered to them to see if they could get a flight, and unfortunately that wasn't going to be a possibility. But remember, the airlines are now trying to get everybody out. The last thing we want is you guys heading down. So 2-5, what is that? Okay. We just don't want you guys going into the line of fire. We want you guys all leaving the area. So heading up. You may have some plans, or you might wanted to do something for a weekend, but that's not the place to be traveling to, at least not this weekend. So you may have to give it up. My feeling about Newport, Richie, they're going to get some. They're under the hurricane watch at this point. They're going to get some of the hurricane. As to the severity, really is going to depend on the angle. If it comes in this way, if the turn doesn't come until it hits the southwest side of the peninsula, it'll be less of an impact, but there's a lot of onshore because of the rotation. So there'll be wind, there'll be some rain, there'll be some storm surge, but it's moving quickly, and that's the good news. Now, if it comes in like this, they're actually in better shape, because for them, everything would be pushing away from the coastline. So I know I'm not giving you more information, but here's Thursday. We're a couple of days out. We've got Friday, then Saturday, and even at Saturday, we're still talking about the storm being down here. Even though we may get some winds, the storm's still down here. So the storm the center, doesn't really get here until maybe Saturday night into Sunday. I'm not trying to be coy. I'm just trying to give you the timing of this. So it can shift a little bit, but at this point, let's watch it. If it crosses 80, we have more severe impact in Florida. If it starts to turn before it hits the 80-degree longitude, it'll be better for us. And honestly, just look at a map and watch that line, and that'll be it. So I hope you guys got some of your questions answered. I hope I helped you a little bit. I'll try to do this as best as I can, rather infrequently, but I just wanted to kind of reach out tonight, make sure you guys had a little bit of an update, make sure you had some information, and again, I just hope that you guys feel a bit better about it. So we'll say goodbye. The only good news is, at least this year when we talk, it's not my birthday and we're not toasting with wine, but relax. Don't panic, but relax. So I'll see you on Facebook.